Hey guys, Chuco's Powerhouse Cinema back at it again. You know what I'm saying? We're here talking about A Quiet Place Day One. Now, I personally am a fan of the Quiet Place trilogy so far. There's been nothing that's been glaringly bad about them. I find them enjoyable, and there's nothing really that was holding me back from going to watch Day One. I was just kind of excited to see what they were going to do. You know, we've already seen what the world has become with the first two A Quiet Place films. So it's interesting to actually get a chance to see what's happening in New York or a big city in general on the first day of this invasion. If you're just waiting for the quick just rundown, it's a good solid checkout if you guys are into A Quiet Place. Now we're going to get into a couple of things about it. But I do think that it was enjoyable. Plot of the film revolves around Lupita Nyong'o's character, who is a hospice patient. It's something I didn't realize in the trailer, and I don't know if it was in any of the trailers, but it's the premise of the film. And she's supposed to have already passed on. You know, she's just surrounding herself with other hospice patients that are on their way, you know, to knocking on heaven's door. And she's convinced by one of the nurses, her friend, to go into the city and watch this play. And during the trip into the city, unfortunately for her, the invasion happens. We're going to get right into it, guys. Getting into the pros, Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn together share this chemistry that I really enjoyed. And it's not a chemistry in the sense of a romance, you know. A Quiet Place has done that before, especially with John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, which, wow, would you think the chemistry between those two, you would think that they know each other. But here we don't really get a romantic sense of chemistry. Here you get a friendship sense. You find Joseph Quinn as a character who is terrified of what's going on around him. And then you find Lupita Nyong'o, who is just fighting to survive. She's a survivor. She's already lived past the time of where she was expected to, you know, pass away. And she's strong. And it's one of those like character balances where she sharpens Joseph Quinn's character to be strong during this time of turbulation, you know, during this time of invasion. The chemistry between these two characters is actually really good. I've seen Lupita Nyong'o in different things, but Joseph Quinn, I know he's famous from Stranger Things, and that's something that I have never really been interested in checking out as far as the show goes. But I had never seen him, you know, in anything other than A Quiet Place Day One, and I think he did a very, very good job balancing with Lupita Nyong'o's character, and I think that is a definite pro of this. It really keeps the emotional aspects that we've come to expect from A Quiet Place films, because of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt's characters previously, and Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt in the second film. The emotion in A Quiet Place is still there because of these two leads, and I think that it's done very, very well. Another thing that you've come to expect from A Quiet Place, especially just because of its premise, is the tension in the film. Now, this isn't tension in the sense of a horror aspect for my, you know, taste. I think the first A Quiet Place, when you don't know what's going on at all, you know, as a viewer, there's a little bit more of a horror kind of element to this. But in Day One, we already know this is a trilogy. It's a prequel, but us as audience members know the premise of what these aliens are capable of what they're gonna do when they get down here. We know that they don't see very well. Apparently they're not very smart, but they can hear everything. And so as an audience member, it feeds into the tension knowing that they cannot make a sound. And I think what the film does very well is they don't think the audience is dumb. They know that if you're watching A Quiet Place Day One, you probably have seen the other two. So they get right into it. By way of exposition is just, you know, choppers going overhead saying, don't make any noise. So they don't waste any time getting into that or trying to explain that or anything like that. You know right out the gate, you can't make any noise. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where the tension is there throughout the movie because you just like, you know, do not make a sound. Apparently some people in my theater didn't know not to make a sound because my theater wouldn't have made it out, guys. Just being, you know, flat honest, we're not making it out of here. But I digress, guys. That was something that was done well, tension building, and it's something that I think A Quiet Place as a trilogy has done pretty well. Another thing I did like about this film, this is another pro, there's this like sense of hopelessness in these characters, and I guess it goes back to performances as well. There's this sense of hopelessness that is overcome. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, these two characters, these two leads, they're in the situation they're in, and they realize that, and they're smart characters. They're not making dumb decisions or anything like that. They're figuring out how to at least distract these aliens. You know, they're throwing bricks into car windows so that the aliens go towards that noise versus themselves. They're stopping people from making noise. The people that are like super hyperventilating because there's a, you know, an alien coming close, they stop that from happening different ways. And it's just one of those things where I think it's just there. The story is there, you know, like the hopelessness is there, but the characters don't care that they're in that much danger, if that makes any sense. They're gonna overcome the odds and they're gonna get their mission done, no matter how basic it may seem. And I thought that was a pro. I really enjoyed that we saw characters that were smart and we're gonna get what they were gonna get done. You know what I mean? They learned how to live even in the situation, but they're gonna get what they're gonna get done. And my last pro, just so we don't ramble too much about it and without getting into any of the spoilers, is this movie is still heartfelt. I go back to where I was talking about John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, especially in the first film, whenever they've already lost a child, you know, and they're gonna bring a child into the world, adds to the tension, you know, there's that chemistry there. There's the heartfelt nature of the family trying to survive in this new and evolving world. I think all three films do that very well, but this one, you know, you're worried about it because these are strangers, you know, it's a little bit harder for, I think, in the storytelling element to have you care about strangers that you haven't seen in any of the other films, you know what I mean? But they still find a way to get you to care about these characters. And it's something that's done well, and it's heartfelt, and it's something that I really enjoyed about A Quiet Place Day One. So those are my pros. Now, when I say the cons, I enjoyed this movie, I really did. I'm just giving you a couple of, like, you know, just a couple of questionable things that happened that maybe might be a little bit of a turnoff to those who are new to A Quiet Place, and that is, it relies heavily on knowing the premise of the two movies to build some sort of tension. Like I said, there is tension there already built into the movie just by the nature of knowing what's happened in previous films. But if you don't know what's happened in previous films, there's that kind of element of like, okay, I got to do a little bit of catching up. So it does kind of depend on whether you've seen the other two, how much tension there's going to be in this one. Of course, that depends on how jumpy you are with movies in general. If you're like a really jumpy person, maybe there's just tension just all the time. But if you're new to if you're not new to the franchise, then you're pretty much just kind of waiting for the action to start and trying to see the story unfold. And in that sense, it's kind of, you know, you've seen A Quiet Place, you kind of know the premise of what's going on, and it's just one of those things where you're waiting for the unique sense of this one and what's going on with this film. And my second con and my last con that I'm gonna get into is, it's not a bad film, but it's nothing really new. I mean, it's A Quiet Place, you know? It's one of those things where, like, I've seen A Quiet Place Part 1, Part 2, and now I've seen A Quiet Place Part 3. Did I enjoy it personally? Absolutely. I'm glad I saw it, and I'm glad I saw it in theaters because it really adds that element. Like I said, as much as I get upset or whatever that people were making noise, it's funny because that's part of it, you know? We all know the premise of don't make any noise, these things are gonna hear you, and then you just hear somebody, you know, cough or lowering the recliner of the seat and it's squeaking, and you just kind of look over to the side and we're like, we're not gonna make it out of this, are we? Yeah, it's one of those things, but still, it's nothing really new. It's not gonna reinvent A Quiet Place. We still don't really know much about the aliens that are in this universe, you know? And I think part of that is okay. Like, I don't need like a whole lore explanation of what these things are. But I mean, it's not building off of anything. It's just okay. It's a good movie. It's fun. It's a good movie. It's a solid A Quiet Place movie. But guys, with that, we're gonna go ahead and get into my rating. Now, A Quiet Place Day One is a solid film. It's a solid summer movie release. It's nothing bad. I mean, we've had some duds this year. This is not one of them, but it also doesn't reinvent the A Quiet Place series, you know what I mean? It makes it a solid trilogy, I think. It's one of those things where certain films start to dip off, I think around 3 or 4. 4 especially, like if you start making a 4th one, it starts to get a little bit, you know, like, okay, we gotta see something new here. A Quiet Place Day One is a solid entry into the A Quiet Place franchise. I do like the chemistry between Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. I think that's done very well. The tension's there, the heartfelt nature of these films is still there. That hope trying to get to that goal is still there, and I appreciate all that. But like I said, it doesn't reinvent the franchise. So with that, I would have to give A Quiet Place Day One a 3.5 out of 5, 3 out of 5. Do I feel lucky? And you have to ask yourself if you feel lucky, because if you're a Quiet Place fan, this is a solid movie. Like you're gonna really enjoy this, and it's something I recommend the theater experience for. You know, there's some movies that you can wait for streaming, and you can definitely wait for streaming, I guess, for this, but this is one of those movies that, yeah, man, go to the theater, get yourself some popcorn, just don't make any noise when you're eating so we don't get caught by these aliens. The theater experience is best suited for this one. I definitely recommend seeing it in somewhere with others. It's one of those things that's super exciting, especially if you see it with people that are super jumpy. When I go to the movies with some of my buddies, some of them are extra jumpy, so it's pretty funny, and it's just like the expressions they make, like, oh, we're pretty much done, aren't we? But it's something that I enjoy doing. But you have to ask yourself if you feel lucky, because if you're not a Quiet Place fan and you're not somebody that's really like into these kinds of movies, then it just might not be for you. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where there's not a lot of dialogue, there's not a lot of talking. There's a couple of callbacks to previous films, so if you've never seen it, you might not enjoy this. But I think this is a solid A Quiet Place film. It's a good place in the franchise. I don't know how much more we can do with it, but I really enjoyed this one. But with that, guys, what did you guys think about A Quiet Place Day One? Have you had a chance to see it yet? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Disagree with what I'm saying? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribe or like and share this video. It really helps us grow. Be looking out for new videos, guys. I'm gonna be working on some new videos. If you're new to the channel too, we also have things called Power Picks that you can check out. I'll link one up here. That's where we talk about movies that may have flown under the radar, or just personal favorites of mine. Or check out some other of the movie reviews that we have on the channel. But with that, guys, always remember something my friend Big Tuna used to tell me, and that's